I am thrilled to be here, so thank you to Lisa and to Carin and to the entire Positive Thinkers Network for having me here. I am doubly blessed to be here because I actually spent 8 years in Cleveland. I no longer live in Cleveland, but I'm so excited to be back because Cleveland feels like my hometown in many ways. So I came to Cleveland about 10 years ago now, and I did not know one person. Not one person. I had a job, I was in automotive marketing, and I had worked for Alcoa, the largest aluminum company, and they moved me to Cleveland, and I showed up and I did not know one person. And somehow, 8 years later, I ended up running marketing for all of Northeast Ohio, and was basically Northeast Ohio's cheerleader. So I was the vice president of marketing for Team NEO, which is Northeast Ohio's economic development organization, and some of you may have seen me speak when I spoke about Cleveland a lot. So you think, how did I go from not knowing a single person to basically being Miss Cleveland with a badge around my chest all the time? And the reason that I was able to become Northeast Ohio's cheerleader is because being a cheerleader is my purpose. It's what I was born to do, it's what I still do, and what I'm going to talk to you about is the importance of purpose, why it matters, and how you can figure out what yours is. So when we talk about purpose, and I want to give you a little bit of background about me. So Lisa just mentioned positive psychology. How many of you are familiar with positive psychology? I have to tell you. So I speak to a lot of groups, and this is the first one that actually did gratitude, as part of our meal, and this is the first one where I've, read positive statements in advance. So this is going to be, I think a decently easy crowd to convince of this great work. So I really appreciate it. So. I have my master's degree in this thing called positive psychology, and it is the scientific study of happiness. So as much as I, my whole life, have believed in the law of attraction, as much as my whole life I knew that happiness mattered, gratitude mattered, there are a lot of people in this world we know who do not believe it. And what positive psychology has done for us is it has given us the scientific understanding of why it works, how it works, so that people like me, people like many of you in the room, can help more people. And that's really what this is about. Positive psychology was started by a tenured professor at the University of Pennsylvania with the idea of saying that for so many years, psychology always looked at what is wrong. It looked at depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, really important diseases that we have to understand in order to heal people. There was a realization in the field about 20 years ago that we had not done as much research on wellness. And the absence of illness is not wellness. The absence of illness is baseline, folks. The absence of illness is zero. But the absence of illness does not mean that we're thriving in life. It does not mean that we have healthy relationships. Just because you don't have a bad relationship doesn't mean that your relationship is thriving. Just because you don't hate your job doesn't mean that you love your job. So we have to start really understanding from a scientific laboratory perspective, what is it that makes life worth living? And if we can understand that from a scientific perspective, we can help more people get there. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. We all here, and you're here at Positive Thinkers Network because you believe happiness is a choice, right? You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe positive thinking worked, et cetera, et cetera. Well, here's what we know about happiness, okay? We know that science has looked at twins who were actually split at birth, and therefore they can look at how two people were raised, nature and nurture. And what has been found, what percentage do you think of our happiness is genetic? 2%. 2%. Anyone else?
50.
Well, Lisa, I think you know, so you're going to have to not play with my games a little bit. 50% of our happiness, approximately, is genetic. That means you were born with a certain amount of happiness. And this, you can't get this down to every single person, but studies have shown that approximately the majority of us, 50% of our happiness was born. So if you're a really happy person, like Toshiba Bob, you can go ahead home and, you can write a gratitude letter to your folks, or, even if they're passed on because they were great, okay? If you are someone who's had to work on your happiness, maybe you're not so happy with your parents at the moment, but it's only 50%. What does that leave for the rest? Another 50%. Within that other 50%, okay, there is a certain amount that is our life circumstances. So the color of your skin, the socioeconomic class you were born into, the city you were born, religion, your sexual orientation, what percent of your happiness has been found is your circumstances in life?
10.
Well,
Oh, that's because you know that.
it's 10. It's only 10%. So if we have 50% that's genetic and we have 10% that is your life circumstances, folks, that leaves 40% that is our choice.
Brain.
What?
40% in your brain.
40%, Toshiba Bob says, is in your brain. We're going to talk about 40% is in your brain, it's in your heart, it's in the activities that you choose to do every day, it's in the work you choose to do, it's the way that you choose your relationships, and it's the way that you choose to have gratitude in the world. But that is 40%, meaning even if you were born with genetic, a low set point for happiness, you've got a lot that you can still work with. So one of the things I did when I was Cleveland's, chief cheerleader, if you will, is I spoke to, I don't know, hundreds of organizations throughout Northeast Ohio. I spoke to probably tens of thousands of people. Because my job was actually externally to promote Northeast Ohio to bring more businesses here. But what I found, people would think, oh my God, that's such a hard job. How do you get anyone to come here? The only people who were negative about Cleveland were who? Clevelanders. Right. Okay? The only people who were negative about Cleveland were Clevelanders. People who were born here. The majority of people who are not from here really know nothing about it. And when people are here, you can convince them either way. So what I started doing is I started going on a road show to Clevelanders, to chambers of commerce, to a group like this, any group that would have me speak, to talk about the positives, the reason to be optimistic about Cleveland's future. Okay? Because so many people would say to me, Carin, what are you doing? You work for Team Neo. What are you doing to fix Cleveland? And I would look back at them and I would say, what are you doing? Because every single one of us has something we can uniquely offer to this city, to this region, to this world. No two of us in this room have the exact same set of strengths, of talents, of passions, and of experiences. And the combination therein means that each and every one of us can make a unique contribution. Each and every one of us has a gift to offer. And so that's what I went about studying. I left Cleveland so that I could go get my master's degree in this thing called positive psychology, because I said, I see way too many people just going in and out of their lives, just shuffling about. And I firmly believe that each of us has a unique contribution to make, and if we knew it, we would be a happier society. So I got my master's degree at Penn. I am blessed now to teach at Penn, and I'm blessed now to do the work that I do. And my entire job is happiness. My entire job is helping people figure out their purpose in life and how to go after it. So I want to go back to what I said was my purpose, which was what? Being a cheerleader. Right. So when I was a little kid, my parents, they grew up in Detroit, so I'm sorry to say this to an Ohio crowd, okay? But yes! Put her there! I love that girl, right? And I've got Susan in the room somewhere. Oh my God! Okay. You know what? This is like I'm speaking to my hometown. I love it. Okay. So, I grew up in Detroit. My parents went to the University of Michigan. I knew it was coming. I thought we were friends. Okay. Anyway, so I'm a little girl. I was brought up on Michigan football. It's the thing I was brought up on. My parents took me to every single football game when I was a little girl, and I was a girly girl and could not have given a you-know-what about football. But I was enchanted by those cute girls on the field who somehow were able to get an entire 100,000 person crowd up on their feet, doing the wave, chanting "Go Blue." I was fascinated. I wanted to be one of them so badly that when someone would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a Michigan cheerleader. I wanted to be a 70-year-old Michigan cheerleader, a 90-year-old Michigan cheerleader. I didn't care how old I was going to be. Okay, that's all I wanted to do in my life. But that was a really great dream until I tried out for freshman. I went to high school and tried out for freshman cheerleading, and I found out I can't do a cartwheel and I can't do splits. So there would seem to go my dream of being a cheerleader. And just like happened to a lot of us, our dreams are shattered. My dream was shattered by this external thing of what a cheerleader is supposed to be, and then I went about in my life and didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. But our society says, well, there's a checklist that will make you happy, and it looks as follows. Ladies, I'm sure you'll be along with me on this one. Marry a good-looking guy. He should be a lawyer or a doctor. At least I'm Jewish, that's what my parents said. So he should be wealthy. You should live in a big house, right? Blah, blah, blah. You should make 6 figures, all these things, right? I found myself at 26 years old, folks, and I had a 2,500 square foot house in the suburbs. I had a gorgeous husband who was a lawyer, and I was miserable. Miserable. I had a career in marketing. And I didn't understand. I check. I did everything I was supposed to do, and I wasn't happy. And I found myself one day about to be separated. We had already started that process, and I was 26. And it was my grandfather's birthday. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor who never let the Holocaust get to him. He was a happy, positive person who always saw future opportunity. And it just happened to be his birthday, and I went to synagogue, which I never did as a 26-year-old. And I know this group will believe it, but there I saw someone who I have not seen since high school, who had been my youth group advisor. And her cousin happens to be in the room, which is quite ironic. But I saw an old youth group advisor who I haven't seen in 10 years, and she was a mentor to me when I was a child. And I took her out in the hallway, and I started crying, and I told her, I'm getting a divorce, and I'm miserable. And she said to me, go be a youth group advisor. And I said, okay. And I went ahead, and I became the advisor to the same youth group that she had been my advisor in, and the same youth group that I had been in as a child. And within weeks, I found myself cheerleading 40 high school girls who were ready to take on the world, who each had unique strengths, who were going to go off to some sort of career or college, and they each were excited about life. They saw life ahead of them, and I became a cheerleader. And that is how the last 10 years of my life have